People love burying things. From Samuel Pepys's cheese to Roman coin hoards, people have been burying things and digging them up again for thousands of years. I've come to the Museum of Liverpool, where a new exhibition displays the largest collection of archaeological treasures in the northwest. This exhibition has brought together items from the Roman period to the 17th century to explore what treasure is and why it's been so important to us throughout history. This is a multimedia exhibition, so you will hear some background noise during interviews, so do use the subtitles if needed. It brings together objects found in North Wales, Merseyside, Cheshire and Lancashire, which, as someone who lives on the other side of the Pennines, I don't know much about. So I'm excited to discover what these objects can tell us about our island story. Before the development of the modern banking system, the only way to save your money was to keep it with you, and the most famous type of buried hoards are the collections of coins which were deliberately buried for safekeeping. For whatever reason, their owners never returned for them. The Roman coins in this display highlight the different motivations for deliberately burying your money, only in these cases to never return to it. So we've got lots of Roman coins here, and they tell us the different reasons why people might try and bury their hoard. Why is that?
Yeah, there's lots of reasons why people might bury treasure. A really interesting example, or maybe quite surprising, is the Egton hoard, which is this really large hoard that you can see in this case with this lovely ceramic pot. These coins are from the 3rd century, and in the Roman period, in the 3rd century, there was a crisis across the entire empire. The empire was sort of splitting apart. There was a loss of political control, loss of economic control, and they had really high inflation. And anywhere up to 1 million of these coins, called radiates, were being made every day. So you have a huge amount of coinage that isn't really worth a lot of money and prices rising really quickly. So instead of this being a hoard of extreme wealth, which when you look at it you might think it is, it's actually a hoard of worthless coins. So perhaps the person who put these together buried them and never came back for them because they were completely worthless, which is in complete contrast to the hoard at the back, the Dutton hoard, which is a much later Roman hoard. So this is towards the end of the Roman occupation, and that has some quite rare silver coins, and we think that was possibly hoarded because it was worth a lot of money and it was someone's personal wealth they were trying to keep safe. So you have a small hoard, which you might think is someone who doesn't have a lot of money, but they actually do, and a large hoard, which you think is worth a lot, but is actually worth nothing.
There's also a collection of ornate silver coins and jewellery from the Viking period. It highlights the complexity of the Viking world. They raided communities in Britain and Ireland, yet were also skilled craftsmen who traded far and wide. So this is a case full of Viking items, and these are some of your favourites.
They are. We've got 3 lovely hoards in this case. They're all found in the northwest, around the time when the Viking leaders were kicked out of Dublin. And we've got this stunning silver in the shape of armbands. So the Huxley hoard armbands have been flattened, probably for easy transport. Whereas you can see in the Silverdale hoard, they're the shape they would have been when you wear them. One of the interesting things about the hoards is we were able to work with the University of Liverpool in preparation for the exhibition, and they took some tiny samples of silver, which they were able to analyse to try and work out where the silver is coming from that's in these hoards. And what we've learned is that some of the silver in the objects is actually made from silver coins called dirhams that were melted down to make into objects. So these are coins which are made in Afghanistan and Iraq, so possibly coins made in Baghdad that have been traded by the Vikings or exchanged, possibly raided, and then they've made their way across Europe, across the world, all the way to the northwest, where we then see them made into these lovely objects which have Irish influence in the decoration. So it's sort of lots of cultures coming together in these 3 hoards, which is really interesting.
Finally, I was able to get my hands on a reproduction Roman brooch and find out more about the relationship between the Romans and Celtic Britons.
here we have, if you'd like to take a hold. So these are two of the replicas of the Knutsford hoard, which is a Roman hoard of silver objects and silver coins. So what we have here is an exact replica of one of the larger of the brooches, and this is from one of the rings too. Which is really quite lovely. So this is a Roman brooch. These brooches didn't come into Britain until the Roman period. However, the decoration on the brooch is really where it gets quite interesting, because this is what we would call a Latin style or sort of Iron Age style of decoration. So what we're kind of seeing here is sort of a mashup, basically, of indigenous British and sort of Roman influences and design preferences. So we sort of wonder, well, is the person who owned this, were they a Roman, sort of come in from with the Roman invasion? Are they interested in sort of native, sort of traditional art, so they've put that onto their brooches? Or are we looking at someone who is traditionally British, but they really like the Roman style of brooch, and so they've picked the Roman brooch but kept their own sort of traditional design? We don't know, and we'll never know. But it's really wonderful to see that kind of joining of the two sort of cultures come together.
I've learned a lot about archaeology and ancient treasures, but the best way to experience it is by seeing it yourself. So do give the Museum of Liverpool a visit.